Alright guys, welcome back. In this video we'll be going through if statement exercise, right, of what you may encounter in real life. Okay, this may be seemingly difficult, but I assure you that the building blocks and principles are exactly what I have explained in the previous lecture, right? If you have understood every single detail that I'd explained in the previous video and the different types of if and using and or, and the else if else, the nested and etc., then this is going to be a breeze. Okay, so obviously not too difficult, but a lot of people are not able to solve it. From what I've known, based on my experience in the class, right? When I give out this exercise, more often times, they're not able to come up with the correct spot on answer. Okay, that's because they don't really understand the premise of the if statement. So that's why we're going to go through this. Okay, we're going to go through this. Okay, and hopefully by the end of it, you would be having a crystal clear clarity on the if statement and just exactly how easy is it, right? Okay, so now if Mary had ordered computers or electronics in the first selection, right? So Mary, okay, Mary, so there are 5 available selections. I've established a drop down list. Okay, these are all the least available, and I've established a drop down list based on the corresponding drop down list below it. Correct? Okay. So if Mary had ordered computers or electronics in his first selection, so Mary is ordering 3 items, and what this question is basically saying is that if Mary had ordered computers or electronics in the first selection, so it can be either one, with bikes and cars as its second and third. Okay, the bikes and cars as its second and third, order does not matter. So it can be cars and bikes or bikes and cars. Okay, provided that they're one of them, right? It can't be like something like household or vehicles, all right? Okay, and if she had purchased it in either Penang or Johor, Penang is Georgetown is where I stay, Penang, and Johor is the southern state. So if she had either purchased it from Penang or Johor, okay, in a condition, so the item that she's purchased must be either new or used. Okay, it has to be new or used. It can't be refurbished. Okay, it can't be refurbished, and the payment method is either cash or credit. Okay, it has to be cash or credit. Okay, it can be app or debit. Okay, cash and credit strictly. Okay, and if she had ordered these items via the shopping platform, so I've listed out 4 shopping platforms: Shopee, Lazada, Amazon, Alibaba. Right. So if she had purchased it from Amazon first, okay, and Lazada second, okay. So this one has to be in order, in strict order. Amazon first, Lazada second, right? Then if all these conditions are fulfilled, return a message box that says perfect order. Okay. Otherwise, return a message box that says not perfect order. So there's a 2, as you could see already, it's not that difficult. It's only 2 outcomes. Either it's a perfect order or a non-perfect order. Okay. So let's approach the problem. Okay, let's approach this problem. Okay, so right, we have this address A9, A10, A11, right? So B9, C9, D9, E9, and E10. Right? Okay, so A9 and A10, 11. Is that the 9, 10, 11? Right? Okay, so sub if exercise. Let's approach this. Okay, it's not that difficult, I promise you. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the first part. Okay, if Mary had ordered computers or electronic in the first selection, so if this A9, if it's either computers or electronics, okay, so computers or electronics as first selection. Okay, so if sheet 1 dot range A9, right? Remember, that was the address, range A9, okay, dot value, okay, is equals to computers or sheet 1 dot range A9 dot value equals to electronics. Okay, so we've sorted out the first part. Okay, right? So And with bikes and cars, that's it, second and third. So order does not matter. This can be bikes or cars, and this can be bike and cars as well. So A10 can be bikes and cars. A11 can be bikes and cars. Okay? Okay? Okay, so I'm going to write the then. Right? We have another if, right? Obviously, we have another if, right? So, bikes and cars as second and third. Okay, I'm just going to write this comment. Okay, so this is exactly what we're doing. So, then, if sheet 1 dot range A10 dot value, right? If it's bikes or sheet 1 dot range A10 dot value equals to car. So it can be either, right? Then we have another if, okay, and an if underneath it, another if, okay? If sheet 1 dot range A11, right? Dot value equals to bikes or sheet 1 dot range A11 dot value equals to cars, right? Then, okay, so bikes or cars as A10 and 11, right? So we've sorted out this part, I think, okay? Order does not matter. That's why I say it can be either bikes or cars, okay? So she had purchased it in either Penang or Johor, okay? So this B9 has to be either Penang or Johor. Then we're just going to write what? Another if, right? If sheet 1 dot range B9 dot value equals to Penang. Sorry. So be careful about the spacing and all of that, right? Make sure there's you do not make a mistake there, right? Okay. Range B9. So the B9 can be either Penang or Johor, right? So Johor is the southern state in where I live. Okay, so Penang or Johor, then I've sorted out that part. Okay, in a condition that is new or used. So C9 here has to be either new or used. Then, if sheet 1 dot range C9 dot value equals to used or sheet 1 dot range C9 dot value equals to new. Then what are we going to say? I think we have another if underneath it, right? So that is new or used, okay, with the payment of either cash or credit, okay, the payment method of either cash or credit on D9, right? Range D9 dot value equals to cash or sheet 1 dot range D9 dot value equals to credit. Then what we're going to say? What we're going to say if it's cash or credit, okay? Ordered in either Amazon or Lazada, right? E9 has to be strictly Amazon and E10 has to be strictly Lazada, right? Strictly first, Amazon first, and Lazada second, right? So that's exactly what we're going to say. Then if sheet 1 dot range E9, okay, E9 has to be dot value equals to Amazon, right? Amazon. Then if, right? We need another if. That's just how you should be doing it, right? That's the correct and simplified way of doing this, solving this question. I have seen others who have used complicated ands and ors, which it turned out to be right, but it was extremely complicated. So I'm giving you out the correct, not the correct, the ideal way of solving it, right? So Lazada is E10, right? E10 dot value equals to Lazada, right? So this is there. So if all these conditions are fulfilled, what do we have? Then return a message box that says perfect order. So if all these outcomes, all these conditions here are fulfilled, then underneath this if, we're going to say message box perfect order, right? And then we're going to end this if. Okay, so before we end the if that's sitting inside, let's count the number of if that we have to close, right? Let's count the number of if that we have to close. Otherwise, return a message box that, okay, so this is going to be the tricky part. So where are we going to say the else, the message box? Are we going to say here, else, then message box perfect order, else, are we going to say, are we going to put it here? Are we going to say put it here? Think about it. Is it the right way to put it here? Well, the answer is no. This is not the right way to do it. Okay. The reason is once the code has run all the way here, okay. Once the code has run all the way here, you only have one outcome. Okay. All right. You only have one outcome. Okay. So in order for the code to get to the else, all right, something along the way here has to be unfulfilled in order for it to reach to this section of the code, right? You have to remember that, okay? In order for you to say not perfect order, right? So which means that something along here has to be wrong, right? For it to be triggered. So if you've already come to this point, so everything has been correct. So if you've come to this point, then everything here has been fulfilled. So what is there not to be fulfilled? Okay, so that's not the right way. That's not the right way to do it. Okay, let's just close all the if. Okay, how many ifs do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we're just gonna close all if. Okay, we're gonna close 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? So we have 8 ifs. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so let's just test this right now. Okay, let's just test this, right? Okay, we're going to get to the second part of the not perfect order, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert a shape. Okay, I'm just going to insert a shape and assign a macro into it. Okay, so I'm just going to write something, our macro. Okay, and then what we can do is we can just, right, we can just assign a macro to it. We're going to assign the macro that we've just recorded. Okay, so we only have one workbook, right? Okay, so sorry, I was about to cancel this. Okay, now let's run this macro. Okay, it's a perfect order, right? So obviously I've not messed up the order. Now so I have this computer electronics, right? So let's try it. Computer electronics, absolutely. Now bikes and cars. What if I go cars and bikes? Remember, the order did not matter. Okay, cars and bikes. Okay, it's giving us spot on, right? So let's change the location here. We say it can be Penang or Johor, perfect order, right? It can be new or used, right? Perfect order. Now, if we put something that does not fulfill the right order, you see when we run it, it doesn't give us the answer, the second part of the code, which was not perfect order, right? Not perfect order. So we just, never mind. We'll get to that in a while. So if it's either cash or credit, so we run it, it's perfect order, right? Amazon has to be first, Lazada has to be second. So what if we change it around? Lazada, right? It's not running. What if we put Lazada and Amazon, right? Not running. Okay. So obviously this section, what we have written so far is absolutely spot on. So Amazon Lazada, spot on. We just have to add the second section of where we say that, okay, when do we trigger the not perfect order? And as I've explained to you, you can't write it here, right? You can't write it. You can't have an else here and then you start writing, well, else, because if you had reached this point, right? If the code has reached to this point, right? If this section was not wrong, if this section was wrong, it wouldn't proceed to the next section, right? That's the way the if works, right? If this is true, then the outcome is achieved. So this was another if, the outcome was another if, right? The true. So if this condition is achieved, then you come to the true. Then this was actually, the true outcome was actually another condition, all the way up to came down to here. So actually what you have to do is actually you have to come up with another if. Okay, this is when, remember I told you somewhere in the early lecture when we can use the very intelligent way of using the boolean. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say light as in like boolean, which means that's going to be our indicator. Okay, this is an intelligent way to do it. Okay, and this is the way you should be doing. I think I've taught VBA for a long time, and I've only seen I think three students. Okay, there was only 3 of them, who have actually came up with this solution. Okay, so that's minimal considering the number of VBA classes I've conducted in my past. Okay, so I'm going to say dim light as boolean. I'm just going to set it as false. Okay, so message box perfect order. Okay, now if it's achieved this point, right, it's a perfect order, right, light is still going to be false or true now. Okay, the light, now we want to indicate that perfect order, right? So we have to change the boolean to true. So it means that when it has achieved perfect order, it becomes true. Okay, but we want to run this when it's false. Okay, because once you've come to this point, it gives us message box perfect order and the boolean changes to true. This is the only way when the boolean goes from false to true. So if it doesn't go from false to true, we know that somewhere along the way, the order was not perfect. Okay, if you get what I mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write this. If light equals to false, then message box not perfect order. Okay. I don't even have to put any because it's a single line, right? To account for not perfect order, right? And that's all. That's all to it, right? So light is false. It's perfect order, it comes true. But in any other instances, if it doesn't turn true, we know the order was not perfect because it has not reached this point. It has not reached to this point, right? Because if this condition is true, then it goes right to the second line. And if this condition is true, it runs to the third line. If this condition is true, then it runs to the fourth, and so forth and so forth, right? So the only way it's going to turn true if all the conditions were fulfilled. Okay? If one of these is wrong, suppose that if this condition was not fulfilled, if ship.value was not Amazon Lazada, suppose it was Lazada and Amazon, then this section would not run. Therefore, this outcome will not be achieved. Okay? So we're going to test that now. Now I'm just going to put Lazada and Amazon. And let's run this. Not perfect order. You can see that, right? It's working. It's working. Amazon, Lazada. I'm going to run the macro. Now it's a perfect order. Electronics. Let's change it to household. Not perfect order, right? Remember, it has to be only computer electronics. Perfect order now. Jor, KL, let's change the state to something different. KL, which is a headquarter of the country. Not perfect order. Okay. So remember, it can only be Penang or Jor. So we're just going to stick to Penang. Right? Can be either one, doesn't matter. So what if you choose refurbished? Not perfect order, right? Definitely did not fulfill the condition. Now it's perfect order, new or used. Credit, let's try app. Not perfect order, right? Absolutely, right? If it's cash or credit, right? Cash or credit, right? Cash or credit. Debit, nope, it will be not a perfect order. Okay, cash, Amazon, Lazada, anything else. Okay, we can change to Amazon, right? Shopee, right? Not perfect order. Okay, so Amazon, Lazada, perfect order, right? Okay, so that's about it for this exercise. Okay, I'll be sharing this workbook with you, so there's no worries. And I hope you guys have understood how to work around with the if statements. Okay, thank you, and I'll see you in the next.